my name is Megan Edwards of Focus Communications, and today we're getting an update from Labrador Gold, which trades on the Toronto Venture Stock Exchange under the symbol LAB. And joining me today, we have President and CEO Roger Moss. Roger, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Megan. It's great to be here for the first time and to introduce some of your listeners to the Lab Gold story.
Exactly. That's exactly what we're going to do today. So as a general introduction to Labrador Gold, could you please give our listeners an overview of the company and your flagship Kingsway project in Newfoundland? I will get the presentation started.
Labrador Gold, as the name implies, is a gold exploration company. We have 4 projects in Eastern Canada, Ontario, one in Ontario, one in New Brunswick, one in Labrador, and as you mentioned, our Kingsway project in Newfoundland. One of the things about Labrador Gold, I think, is that we're working in Newfoundland and Labrador, which is an incredibly good jurisdiction to be working in. The government is very supportive of mineral exploration. It's very supportive of mining, and having worked in Labrador and Newfoundland for 4 years now, I can say it's a great place to work, and the government is, as I said, very supportive. We've had a lot of success at Kingsway, and I'll get to that shortly. But we've also got a lot of drilling going on. We've started out last March. We're still drilling today, and we're about halfway through a 100,000 meter drill program on the Kingsway project. And we have quite a bit of cash in the bank, about 25 million right now, and that's really important, especially in these times when financing may be difficult. But it's really that cash that allows us to be as aggressive with our exploration at Kingsway as we have been.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about drilling, as you've been quite busy over the last year advancing various areas along the Appleton Fault Zone. Could you give us a bit of a run through of the high priority targets that the company is currently focusing on?
Yeah, for sure. And this map here just shows our land position with respect to Newfound Gold, which is in the yellow there down to the south of us. And one of the early targets that we had was Big Vein, where we discovered gold mineralization in a quartz vein boulder back in 2020, and you can see that there on the map with one of the intersections that we have had from our drilling of 44 grams over just over 4 meters. So a pretty good hit. And the other thing to look at on this slide here is the Appleton Fault Zone, and that has been really where most of the excitement has been for us, and also for Newfound Gold to the south. Some of the results that they're pulling out have been incredible. Ours have been not as high grade, but still very significant gold mineralization along that Appleton Fault Zone. And that's really the story of Kingsway is that fault zone. If you go to the next slide, I think it shows some of the targets that we have been looking at, and you can see those there. Now these are targets that we've generated ourselves since 2020, and so we're probably coming up to about 2 years of work on the project, and we did a lot of grassroots work in 2020. And as I mentioned, we started drilling in March of last year, but we continued doing this grassroots exploration. I mean, even now we're still prospecting this property because there's just so much left to look at. And one of the things that I want to point out here the number of targets, basically the red and yellow dots all along this line, which is the Appleton Fault Zone. And from the property boundary with Newfound Gold in the south, where we have the Golden Glove target, which is right here. From there up to the top of the property where the Appleton Fault Zone goes off the edge of the property, that's 12 kilometers. So this area right here is 12 kilometers. And you can see that a lot of these targets are spread out along that 12 kilometers. And what's more is that we have targets about 8 kilometers north of Big Vein, which, as I mentioned, was our main and our first target, and one that we're still drilling very heavily. And that target up in the north, it's called the CSAMT target because it's based on a geophysical survey that we did up there in 2020, and we're only now getting up there to test it. And I'll speak a little bit more about that later. But the other thing to note on this slide is, okay, so we've done some drilling. We've drilled at Golden Glove down here in the bottom. We just had some results from there, which I think we're going to talk about shortly. Big Vein, that's the main one that we have been drilling since March of last year. We're still drilling there. That is probably on the order of about 400 meter strike length there right now of gold mineralization. We have another target right here called Pristine, which was discovered by following up pristine gold grains in till samples, hence the name Pristine. And then up over here, we have something a little different at Midway, where we had some we had gold mineralization associated with gabbro, which is quite different from what we normally see, gold mineralization in quartz veins in sedimentary rock. So a lot of drilling having gone on, and what I think is really really exciting, and actually, even if I do want to pat us on the back a little bit, it's quite exceptional that every one of these targets we drilled, we hit gold on, and so we're 4 of 4 in targeting and successfully hitting gold mineralization. And that, I think that's a testament both to our team in the field, but also it's a testament to how prolific this Appleton Fault Zone seems to be. And one of the things that you can see here right away is when you look at all these targets, there are some gaps. There's gaps here, there's some gaps up here, and there's gaps further up to the north. So we're still filling in these gaps, and I think there's going to be a lot more to be discovered here. And as I said, four targets drilled, four areas of gold mineralization outlined, and I think the fifth one, which I mentioned at the CSMT grid up in the north, is going to be pretty exciting as well.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So earlier this week, you announced the first set of assays from the Golden Glove target, along with more mineralization at the Pristine target. Can you recap the results for our listeners?
Yeah. So if we look at this, Golden Glove is down here.
Yep.
And one of the things that it's probably not apparent on this slide, but the Golden Glove is situated on the east side of the Appleton Fault, and all of these occurrences and targets of newfound gold are also on the east side of the Appleton Fault. And you'll notice that our other targets up here are on the west side of the Appleton Fault. So people were very excited about drilling at Golden Glove because it is on the east side of the Appleton Fault, and that's where newfound gold has had all those high grade and long intersections of gold mineralization. So we aren't there yet, but what we did show on those first results from Golden Glove is that we had significant gold mineralization, 6 grams a ton over 4 meters, which included just over 10 grams over 2 meters, and that was actually about 150 meters south of the actual outcrop where we found the original gold mineralization. So that was really good. And I think it just showed that hitting on the first hole again, we're doing our homework as to how we position these drills for success. And I think we may have some on the next slide. There may be some. So I gotta clear that off. this was actually the outcrop where we found the visible gold in a quartz vein and outcrop, and that was found towards the end of last year. And you can see here some of the grades. They're exceptional. Now, I mean, these are grab samples, so you know, if we get these kinds of grades in the drilling as well, that would be great. But
Yeah.
you know, for 193, 194, 338. And the interesting thing about this is that these grades are very similar to some of the high grades that we found early on at Big Vein. So I'm hopeful that we're going to see Golden Glove develop into a second Big Vein, and if we're really lucky, it'll surpass Big Vein based on higher grades and longer intervals, such as we see on the east side of the fault down on Newfound Gold's ground.
Perfect.
So I think if you keep scrolling through, yeah, here's so this is like an interpretation. Golden Glove again. We're looking at it down here in the corner, and this is the boundary. This is the boundary with Newfound Gold. So we're going right at the boundary, and you can see right here is an occurrence that Newfound Gold has up close to the boundary here, and we have seen drills around this area, so you can almost see the drills from Golden Glove working down to the south here. So that's going to be interesting to see what Newfound turn up down there. And yeah, as I mentioned, you know, these are really good intersections for the first hole on a brand new target. And the rest of the slide here is really about looking at some of the other things that go into our exploration targeting, and that's basically structure and geochemistry. And so we've got a lot of soil anomalies. We've got intersecting structures all through this area, and we've prospected this pretty heavily this year. And when we get the results back, we'll be able to define more targets up along this eastern side of the Appleton Fault. So next one, I think, is the next one. Oh, I got to clear that. Yeah, this is a pristine target, and you know, we did announce a few results there last week as well. They're shown here in blue. I'm not sure that's really legible, but what we had was we had 1.86 grams per ton over 8 meters in this hole down here, and then another 1.75 over 20 meters. So really good long intercepts. The grade could be higher, but still, you know, those grades over those intervals are pretty good. And the thing about these intercepts here in what we've called the Doyle zone is that they are close to surface. These are probably about 40 meters or less vertically below surface. So that's encouraging. If we can expand this with those kinds of intervals and higher grade, then I think this is going to develop into another really good gold occurrence.
Great. Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah. So this goes back to the CSMT target that I was talking about earlier in the targeting slide, and we're really excited about this because we did this survey back in 2020, end of 2020, and we haven't really paid it much attention since then, primarily because all of our focus was down in Big Vein, and then when we found Golden Glove, it was concentrated in the south. And as I mentioned, this target is 8 kilometers north or northeast of Big Vein. Now, what's so interesting about this? Well, for one thing, the Appleton Fault Zone comes straight through here, and this is let's see, this is it right here, coming up. That black line. I mean, obviously, it's not a line like this in the ground in real life, but we represent it here as our interpretation where the Appleton Fault is coming through. And you can see that there are numerous other faults, second and third order structures coming off and cutting across that Appleton Fault Zone. So, and all of this is on top of the CSAMT, the geophysics. And what this is measuring is resistivity, and the highest resistivity are the blues and whites. So this area sort of around here, this area up around here, and the really pink, the really dark pink, they would be low resistivity or high conductivity. So there's a pretty major here we go, a pretty major conductor coming down through there as well. But of course our focus is here on the Appleton Fault Zone, and again, this is where our drill holes are setting up. So you can see this is another area where we're drilling from the east side into the Appleton Fault Zone, and if we believe, or if we expect or recognize what newfound gold has down to the south, this is another area that we can test from the east side of the Appleton Fault Zone and see what we come up with. Now, again, as I mentioned before, our targeting is based primarily on geochemistry and structure. And so in the background here, you can see a lot of geochemical analyses, soil vegetation till. We got soil values up to 435 ppb, up to 800 down here, and there's a real cluster of anomalies right here. And the interesting thing about this area is that you can see there's a lot of cross-cutting faults up there as well. So we're very excited about getting up to the CSAMT, and that's where we're going to be heading either this weekend or next week. We'll be starting drilling up on this topic.
Excellent.
All right, so I think if we look at, to give investors and your listeners a synopsis of Labrador Gold and what we really bring to the table.
Yep.
The main thing is this Appleton Fault Zone, 12-kilometer strike length of a very prolific fault zone, which has had a lot of gold associated with it. So, and we've only tested about 2 kilometers of that 12-kilometer strike length. So we've got a lot more to go. And I know that the areas that we've tested have been good. And there's no reason that in between those areas, in between Golden Glove and Big Vein and Pristine and all the way up to the north to the CSAMT grid, there is absolutely no reason why those areas are not going to develop more of these kinds of targets that we've had success drilling over the last year or so. So I think that's really, what it comes down to. 4 out of 4 targets drilled, 4 out of 4 having significant gold associated with them. And I'm confident that we are going to see a similar result up at the CSAMT grid and all along that Appleton Fault. I mean, it's just a phenomenal structure. And we're still prospecting too. And it's amazing. That actually works. I just heard today from our guys that they found a whole bunch more mineralized boulders. So, and that is actually between Big Vein and Golden Glove. So, man, I mean, in a place like Newfoundland, which is so good for exploration and mining, where you can go around and find things with prospecting, that's incredible. But so I think unless you have any other questions, that's great. That's the wrap for me.
Thank you again for your time today, Roger, and we look forward to hearing more from Labrador Gold soon.
Oh, thanks, Megan. I think we'll have lots more news in the coming weeks and months to share with you guys. So thanks again.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.